shot right up front, man. I can see it now. You ever be on the front smiling, man?
Oh, thank you, Zach. That was so kind. I can depend on you and Marty all the time. And then Thursday night we had a meeting with Michael Regan at the Padre, and fortunately I was able to meet Russell that evening. We had a nice conversation, and I'm pleased he's going to be with us here today.
Yes, Mike Regan's an old friend of mine. I'm going to give him a call and see if we can get him on in a couple of weeks. I've known Mike since before his dad ran for the presidency in 1980. So, Clay, one last wrap up on the business conference. I had a great time last week. What about you?
That was an awesome conference.
Oh, yeah.
Who was your favorite speaker?
My favorite speaker was Joe Clark. He did the best imitation of Morgan Freeman I'd ever seen. Joe Clark is the man from Lean On Me. And I tell you, when Joe came up there, he was great. He had his baseball bat with him. But Joe sounded like Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman did such a great imitation in that movie. I mean, it was perfect. There was nothing off. And I loved his message. He had a very, very positive message. What about you? Who was your favorite speaker?
Well, I think Herb Cohen, the international negotiator, was actually my favorite speaker. And you know, the problem is with Herb is he's so unassuming when he comes on, and he negotiates not from weakness, but he appears to be weak when he comes out. But boy, he's just a strong negotiator.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job, and I wish more people would have stayed to hear him. But the overall conference, Marty, was just unbelievable.
Oh, I mean, it couldn't have been any better. I think of all the conferences I've been to, and I know you've been to every single one of them, but this was the best. I really, really had a good time. My hat's off to George and Brandon Martin. They both did a fantastic job. And 1,000 volunteers they had. I mean, it couldn't have been better. I mean, it really was a lot of fun. You know, I need to clarify something, too, just in case some of our listeners may not know what we were talking about when I had Zach play that little Dr. Hook clip. Our own Clay Kerner was in the paper with his picture with Meg Whitman, and actually twice, once with Meg Whitman and Sean Hill and Karen Norton. And then on the email section of the paper, or the online section of the paper, you were on alone with Meg, just you and Meg.
Right, and it wasn't Norton. It was a young lady who just recently graduated from college.
Oh, I thought Karen... Oh, okay, I thought Karen was in that picture as well. Okay, well, and I was trying to figure out why the online version was different, and I think online they wanted to do more of a Beauty and the Beast kind of picture. And that's
I did look good, didn't I, Marty?
Yeah, and let's see. Next week our guest will be... So, something else we need to talk about real quick here, and... That's an article that was in the paper this morning.
Which one was that?
The front page of the Californian had a little article about a mutual friend of ours who we like, Zach Scribner, using grass in college. What do you think about that, Clay?
Well, I want to know who doesn't use it in college. I mean, I think everybody has tried some kind of marijuana or a drug while they were in college. When you look back and you talk about some of the famous people that have been using it and admitted to it, we look at a jackass Obama. He actually smoked weed and admitted to it. And then we have Weird Willie Clinton, who admitted to taking drugs in college. So Zach's in good company. I
think Obama admitted to doing cocaine, which is an entirely different matter. But I think the thing about that bothered me the most is, and Zach said that he had to come up with it only because he was concerned with the unions exposing that a day or two before the election, and then he wouldn't have any time to rebuke it. So,
right.
So he had to come up with it. But it's supposed to be a sealed record.
Right.
He paid his penance. He did everything he was supposed to do. He's never done anything, since then. And yet here's a record that's supposed to be sealed that he's afraid somebody's going to come up with. I mean, unfortunately, that's where our politics have gone, especially in October. There's always an October surprise. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot more of these this month with different candidates because of the closeness of the races, and my comment is shame on you guys for doing this, because you're not going to have a perfect candidate whose life is 100%. None of us are that way. So you're going to discourage good people from running because they're going to be afraid of things like this coming up. And my hat's off to Zach for having the courage to stand up and say, hey, this is what happened, and this is what it is, and be willing to talk about it. So,
and I don't think this is going to change his political views and the things he's trying to accomplish.
No, not at all.
Well, let's get to our guest here, Marty.
Okay. Well, Russell Johnson.
Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Are you sure?
I didn't know Clay was such a celebrity. You know, he gets around, hangs out with all these important people.
It's by 15 minutes of fame. It's over.
I know. And they cleaned up that picture a little bit of Clay too. Luckily it was a headshot and not a full body shot.
Let's get to our guest, Russell.
So, Russell, it lists you on the ballot as a business owner.
Correct.
But you've got more of a background than that. You were on the Planning Commission?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a local guy, born and raised, and currently I own my own business. It's called Common Sense Consulting. It's a public affairs and community relations firm. I've got business and nonprofit clients. But from the time of August 2005 till about April of 2009, I served on the City Planning Commission and learned a lot. The most important lesson I learned was to listen. And that you had to hear what people were saying, try to find a way to accommodate their requests, and make a development look good for the city and fit in with what we needed for our community.
Okay. Well, a couple questions we have for you. The first one is, speaking of your time on the Planning Commission, was there some controversy over the Hillside ordinance?
Yeah, I think the Hillside ordinance passed on a unanimous vote at the Planning Commission, so I'm not so sure it was controversial. I think the issue with the Hillside ordinance that some folks had some complaints about was they thought it was making it difficult for certain folks to develop. But when you look at the Hillside ordinance, more about the Hillside ordinance was about fire protection and about making sure that as fire came up and as landslides would occur, that it wouldn't damage property. And those things were put in place. All the setbacks really had more to do with those than anything else. Now, there was some viewshed protections that were in the Hillside ordinance, but when you look at all the setbacks and where they fell, everything was really more about fire protection and ended up where a setback may have been a certain footage to accommodate a viewshed. It actually was set back further because of landslide or fire protection.
Okay, so. But the other thing is you also said that did pass unanimously
at the Planning Commission, yes.
And also in the City Council, right?
I believe so, but I don't know for certain. I'm pretty sure it did, though.
Yeah, I think so, because I was trying to research it this morning, and I did notice that it was I'm pretty sure it was unanimous in both cases.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Are you still on the?
No, April of 2009, I got off.
Who replaced you?
My term expired, and Councilman Weir appointed Dean Haddock.
And then you were appointed by Mike Maggard?
Yes, back in August of 2005.
Okay. Okay, let's pick up with that in a minute. This is Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.